It's time to check in. I'm Vivi.
And I'm Tony.
This is the first episode of our podcast, and we're going to have fun with this.
We're going to keep it lighthearted.
So to introduce ourselves first, we're husband and wife. We've been together for a little over 7 years now.
And we're technically married for a year.
What do you mean by technically?
I kind of started losing count. It felt like a long time. You know, when you say wedding vows, we're forever. Yeah, forever.
Yeah, so we did get married for a little over a year now. We're both office workers.
9-to-5ers, yep.
I don't know about 9 to 5. I work earlier than that.
That's what they call it. I didn't coin the term. I technically work longer hours too. So, just your average office workers.
Yes. We decided to create this podcast so we can have some fun. We could do some sharing, storytelling. And also, what do you think about when I say time to check in?
It means we're going to travel.
That's the first thing you think of, right?
Yes, that's the first thing I think of. We're going to travel. We're going to check into our flights. And then, going somewhere. Isn't that checking in?
It is, but technically you could check in on everything. So this podcast is going to be a variety, but it's more about like sharing laughter, telling stories, and also checking in on different topics.
I mean, as an office worker, doesn't checking in mean we're poking at your lazy coworkers to making sure they're doing their work, huh?
That too.
Oh, so you're poking at me? You're poking at me saying I'm a lazy person? And are you checking in on me, making sure I'm productive, huh? We're just going to make this into our standard means of conversation. We're not going to talk outside our marriage anymore.
Just to give people a warning, you might hear some bickering. But for the first episode of our podcast, we do want to share a little bit about trips. We went on our honeymoon last year, and it became a much bigger trip than we ever imagined. So I kind of want to share like how we planned that trip and how it all came together.
I actually told my coworker a little bit, like a high-level glance, what was our honeymoon. And 3 out of 4 coworkers that actually heard my story, they were like, whoa. Are you guys sure that was a relaxing trip? That sounded like a lot of things happened.
Yeah, so we went on a 3.5-week honeymoon trip, and we went to quite a few places. We went to Singapore first. We went to Bali. We went to Flores, which was an island in Indonesia. We also went to Taiwan, Taipei area, and then Japan, Tokyo area. That ended up being like 7 flights, total of like 39 hours of flying altogether. There was 10 accommodations, 9 islands that we went to, and then a total of 4 countries that I just mentioned.
Yeah, but I think that's the final result of our trip. Let's break it down step by step. So we first wanted to figure out what we wanted to do, right? I asked for relaxation. I asked for good food, as food is my utmost priority in travel.
Our utmost priority in travel.
That's why we're married.
So yeah, we bring our stomachs on every trip. That's our goal in exploring the world, is eating all different types of food.
Does that mean we deprioritize places with poor culinary experiences?
No, not that. We still want to try different things, and something that we're not necessarily really into right now, we have to go and try it and then see if it's for us, right?
Yep. We feast our eyes and we feast our mouths.
So Tony wanted relaxation and food. For me, I also wanted to add some adventure in there because I couldn't imagine myself just being on a honeymoon where you lay on the beach or you lay at a resort. I don't really feel like that was me or him. I like being on the move, seeing a lot of new things, immersing myself in culture. So when we were thinking about like where we're going to head to, I was like, I don't really want to go to some place close because we're on the west coast of the United States. And I felt that like going to an island like Hawaii was too close. A lot of people go there all the time for relaxation, for their honeymoon. But for me, I just felt like I could fly there anytime. It's only a few hours away. I kind of want to explore somewhere else. I did want to go to an island though. So I did make like a list of different islands, what they had to offer. And at the end of the day, I chose Bali.
I was actually surprised, honestly, when he chose Bali. I didn't expect Bali. I was expecting someplace that was relaxing, like Hawaii-esque, but I definitely didn't expect Bali.
Why didn't you expect it?
Bali wasn't actually on my radar. It did not cross my mind that Indonesia was where we wanted to go for our honeymoon. I was thinking like some nice sunshine and beach, some coastal city of sort. I totally didn't expect Bali. That one caught me off guard. But I'm game. I wanted to go because you were interested in checking it out. It seemed like it checked a lot of your boxes. And when we went to Amsterdam, just to tangent a bit, we had amazing Indonesian food. So I get it. It was great. I'm down. It sounds like a great idea. So how are we going to get there?
Well, we're gonna definitely fly there. I'm not swimming.
Well, yes, we're flying there, but I really doubt there's going to be a direct flight. So my thought was, let's fly into like a hub city. And what's the hub city of Southeast Asia? Singapore.
Of course, we also had like Hong Kong, we had Taipei, we had Korea as options, but Singapore has always been like the foodie heaven place that me and Tony have never been to together. So we're like, why not? Why not go there? It's hot like crazy, but we will try our best to make it out of there alive for 2, 3 days.
Well, let's be honest, Crazy Rich Asian was doing a lot of shilling for people to go visit, and we also fell for that trap too. So we too want to explore Singapore. It would be great. We both have been to other places that were mentioned. Singapore is a completely new place for both of us. That was added to the list immediately.
Yes, I would say flying direct to Singapore was a hefty feat. 16 plus hour flight, we're like, whoa. A lot of people said, hey, why don't you go somewhere else first and then fly to Singapore? But I felt like, starting off the trip at Singapore, we could definitely eat to our heart's content for a few days and then afterwards fly to relaxation. And at that point, we would have to lay over at another city anyway. For me, I really like multi-city trips. I feel like it's bang for your buck. You pay like about $1,000 plus for a airfare to Asia. Why not go to other places? Because they count kind of as layovers when you go to multi-cities and you add those flights in. It's probably like about $100 or so more per city. In order to go to like 4 countries, it turned out to be a little bit less than $1,400. And we were traveling in mid-May and early June. That's a steal.
Yeah, that is an insanely good deal if you think about it. With that, we had two destinations in mind. You have eating our hearts out and then relaxing. Afterwards, we wanted to go to a different place too because we didn't want to just stay in Bali for the full extent of our trip. We decided to look at where we could go next. We looked at Taiwan.
Yeah, when I saw Taiwan, I was like, oh, even though I've been before, Tony has never been. And I can kind of show him around. And also, it's all about food there too. Of course, seeing a different culture as well, but I felt that our priority was also to eat really great things.
Yes, honeymoon means fattening ourselves. We have deprived ourselves from good food while getting ready for the wedding, so it's time to rebound.
And boy, did we rebound hard.
Oh my God. I feel so bad. I wanted to stay fit, but that trip was just all fat.
Hey, but there was a lot of walking too, because once you're in Asia, a lot of times you're walking around, you're eating, and you're sweating.
Yeah, it was great. I think that was essentially the gist of our trip.
And that was supposed to be the end of our honeymoon. But suddenly we were talking to my friend, and then she's like, hey, didn't you guys want to go to Japan as well? Taiwan is so close to Japan. Why are you guys not going?
No.
Why are you saying no?
No. That just triggered something in you when she told you Japan. I was like, no, what's going on? We're adding another leg onto the trip.
It was amazing though.
Yes, the final product was amazing, but during the planning part, we added an extra element. And I know this time around, in Japan, I am going to be leading the experience because I've been to Japan a few times already. So I'll be in charge of logistics, everything. Given I'm not that proficient as a traveler, I felt like it might not reach your expectations. I had a little bit of worry in my heart.
I'm actually really chill, but I do love planning, and I usually do plan all of our trips. But Tony's like an executive. A lot of times I do the planning, and then I let him know, like, hey, what do you think about this?
Approve.
He pretty much does the approval process, and he'll give in his opinions too. I definitely appreciate those because he sees a different aspect of the trip that I don't see sometimes, and he adds to it. And then we have like a really well-balanced trip at that point. Just like how we kind of shared already with our honeymoon. We had food, we had adventure, we had relaxation. Though it sounded really crazy when you put the stats all together. But at the end of the day, we did have 2 to 3 days in Singapore, a total of 8 days in Bali, but I decided I also wanted to go to another island in Indonesia, which is called Flores. So we stayed another 2 to 3 days there. So kind of like a total 10 to 11 days in Indonesia.
You know what's crazy? When we were planning and booking everything, I didn't realize that we were going to Flores at all.
Oh my goodness. That was actually one of the islands I was really interested in, and one of the reasons why I also chose Bali. But we'll get into that later. After Indonesia, we spent 5 days in Taipei area in Taiwan. and then the last 5 days in Japan, Tokyo area.
Well, to clarify, I was originally thinking that we're gonna have 2 to 3 days in Tokyo because that was how our schedule looked. I think we trimmed a day or two off of Bali.
Thank goodness.
Come on, don't be like that. We had a great trip.
We did, but we'll get into the details later on why I said thank goodness.
We added more time in Tokyo.
Yeah, because I felt like if we're only getting a slight sampler in Tokyo, that might not be enough. I've been to Tokyo as well. Tony has a couple times too. But I felt like together we can explore different things and we didn't have to go to all of the touristy places.
Otaku heaven, otaku heaven. Oh,
No.
It's all about otaku heaven. Let's go. We're going to Akihabara. Let's go. For 3 days.
No, that didn't happen. Not because I didn't approve of it, but also because Tony didn't want to do me dirty like that.
Yes, I love you too much for that.
Wow.
I said that live on air. Can you believe it?
So how do we prepare in terms of the days? How do we choose how much time to spend in each place? We've heard a lot of people say for Singapore, don't stay that long. First of all, it's really hot. And second of all, it's a pretty small city. So there's not a lot to explore. So staying there maybe too long might not be as fun. So that's why we chose like 2 to 3 days there.
And then for Bali, it was completely unknown to us. I had no clue what to expect in Bali. So we had to do a lot of research, see what activities people go for, how long they recommend to stay. So we did a lot of research, YouTube, blog readings. We just did our best to approximate the things we wanted to do. I think we threw it all on a map, right?
Yeah, that was actually really nice to visualize it. We just threw all of the places we wanted to visit on Google Maps on the island, and we got to see which part of the island we would want to explore more. It helped us when we were deciding our accommodations because you do want to live like strategically where you could get to the places you want to visit easier and like with shorter amount of time so you're not wasting a lot of time on the road. So that was very helpful in planning and also to see like how many days we would need there because I would say in a day you could do maybe at most if the activities are close together 3 to 4 things that might not make it so that it's like super busy. You always don't want to like hit up 10 landmarks on a day, especially when not all the landmarks are close together.
Yeah, Bali was relatively spread out, I must say. In terms of the pacing in Bali, I think we hit it spot on. Albeit there's some other things we would like to share on a later episode, but you have to worry about so much other things because it was the unknown.
Yes, we did do a lot of research for Bali because it was unfamiliar to us. And also when I wanted to go to Flores too, definitely had to go gauge like how many days to really put in there out of our trip. And then for Taipei and Taiwan, I felt like when I had went there for about 5 days, it was enough. Also for Tokyo, Japan area, I also felt that that was enough for us.
As a sampler, that is.
Yes, so about 5 days. And altogether, that's when we're able to kind of look at flights because now you kind of have approximate dates and how long you want to stay there. So I like using Google Flights as an option to look at the different flights that is available to fly to those areas. And like I mentioned, multi-city for me is bang for your buck. You are able to not pay like full price for a ticket to go to that place in a future trip. And also because Bali, you had to lay over somewhere. So it didn't feel like it was a true layover. It felt like I was also traveling to that city and exploring it too. And Google Flights kind of gives me all of those options as multi-city versus if I were to use Expedia and Kayak, a lot of times they only give you the groups of all the flights that you have. So like I mentioned, we had 7 flights. It gives me groups and I can't really pick and choose like which airline I want to use, what time I want to fly out in to see all the options. And of course, Google also prioritizes the price too. It gives you like the cheapest price first. And that's just easy for me visually versus like Kayak and Expedia and other websites. That's just the beginning though. I always cross-check it with the actual airline's website to make sure I can definitely fly out on those times and it's available. I would say that's one of the most useful tools for me when I plan out trips. But for our honeymoon, because we didn't want to go budget travel, we did hear from a friend that, hey, maybe you can use one of your credit cards like services, which is a travel concierge.
Yeah, we're like, okay, let's give that a shot. So one night we just gave them a call, asked them to help us plan our honeymoon and set up an itinerary to book everything.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I decided to do that too is because a lot of times these concierges, they say that they have a lot of partners and they could get you like better deals or discounts. So I felt really intrigued by that option because what I can find on Google versus, them having those relationships that could probably get us a better option or like better pricing. I was like down for that because I wanted to splurge a little bit for our honeymoon. I wanted a different type of experience outside of what we're usually used to when it comes to accommodations, especially. And we wanted to see if we can fly like business when it came to flying to Singapore. Since it's like 16 plus hours, I didn't want to be in economy. We were trying our best to utilize the service that our credit card provides. And so we're on the phone with them for like what, an hour, telling them what we wanted and also the places we want to visit and our approximate dates.
They were very ecstatic. They were very happy for us when we were having the conversation. They were like, "Oh my god, yeah, that sounds awesome. Your trip sounds amazing," and all the etc. And they took down notes into the dates. We provide them very specific dates because the dates were set, locations were set. We gave them all that information. They're like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. We'll hear back from us in 5 days or so, a week, and we'll send you an email. Thank you."
Yeah, about a week. I was really anticipating. I was like, oh, it's almost a week. And, that helps me with the planning. And hopefully, we could get like really good deals and great options for what we were hoping for on our honeymoon. And at the end of the day, after a week, we never received the response. It's
Two
been,
weeks later, nothing. 3 weeks later, crickets.
yeah.
4 weeks later, Vivian was pissed.
Well, first of all, I didn't wait that long. After 1 week, I'm like, screw it. Let's just book our flight the way that I had already had options for and planned out for. I really was hoping that it would not turn out that way though, because like I mentioned, they really intrigued us when they said they had a lot of partnership and things that I might not be able to find online. They can help us book. And then I ended up telling our friend that recommended this to us, and they're like, oh, I didn't mean to give them your whole itinerary and have them book it. I just meant like restaurant reservations and stuff like that. I'm like,
Oops.
what? I took it to a totally new level. I took it too
I
far.
don't think they're paid enough for whatever you wanted them to do.
Yeah, I guess so. And, I understand, telling people how our trip was like and what the dates and the flights, like 7 flights. Oh my goodness. They're probably wondering, are you crazy? What are you trying to get yourself into? Right? So I feel like I can't blame them entirely, but, it's kind of disappointing. We did end up planning our trip on our own. And it was a really enjoyable experience for me because, like I said, we were traveling to places that were unknown to us, like Bali and Indonesia.
Yeah, and Singapore as well. Technically, certain parts of Tokyo that we're going to go to is also an unknown. We're just going full adventure and making sure we're seeing new stuff on this trip.
After we chose our flights and got it booked, it was time to think about visas and also our passport.
As a US passport holder, we were able to go to Japan, Taiwan, and Singapore without the need of applying for a visa. But for Bali and Indonesia, we have to get a visa in order for us to enter. We could have opted for visa on arrival, meaning we land and then we apply for a visa there and get approval, or you could do it online. I was hoping to sell you an idea. We'll just do it there. We'll take care of it when we get there. But you didn't like that idea.
No, I did not. Because here, imagine us flying in, tired and all, especially because the time that we were arriving was like, at night. I was like, let's just get it done if we can get it done earlier. So you could apply for the visa online ahead of time before you even fly in. So we did that obviously like way early on when we were planning the trip.
And boy, was that a good idea. Folks, do it online. If you can do it early, do it early. It makes a world of difference. Afterwards, we need to make sure our passport wasn't expired. There is something that I don't really know, Vivian. Please help me. Something about 6 months. Can't come back to the States if your passport is not expired but soon to be expired. That's a weird rule.
Yeah, for some reason, the US Department of State does require you to have at least 6 months of efficacy for your passport to get back in or even to leave the country. So I just had to quickly look at our passports before we booked the flight just to make sure. And our passports were fine. We didn't have to deal with renewing it beforehand. But if we did, if it was like very close to the time that we were returning and it was going to expire, then we definitely had to go and renew it. Or else we would be stuck probably leaving the country and having to go to an embassy to do that, which would be a headache.
Yeah, US passports are effective for 10 years every time you apply for them. So I guess people forget about them and don't remember when they're expiring or have expired.
And that's for adults. If it's for kids, it's only 5 years.
Ooh, so greedy of them.
Well, your face changes, so they want you to keep up to date with like how you actually look, or else that would be a very big problem. Anyway, we've had a friend where they went to the airport and couldn't fly because that's when they realized their passport was expired.
Oof. That sounds rough. All their plans, their flights can't be canceled at that point and everything, right?
Unless you have travel insurance, which we usually don't like separately buy because our credit card does have that protection. Thankfully, we've never had to use it. And even if we did, we do kind of have a higher threshold. So thankfully, we do have that. But in terms of other people that may not have those services with their credit card, yeah, you can look into it. It's not that expensive, but it definitely provides that protection just like how any insurance has. You might not need it, but when you do, you thankfully have it.
Yeah, that was a lot of preparation that we did. Like flights, our location, visa, passport, making sure everything is good and ready to go. I was like, you know what? This is a lot of stressful thinking. Can we think about something that's less stressful? I want to talk about food because food is what makes me happy. And we're going to Singapore first, right? I want that Hainanese chicken. I don't care about anything else, but Hainanese chicken and durian. Give me that durian. Because Vivian, you never tried proper durian. We're in
I don't even
Singapore.
eat durian.
Yeah, we're in Singapore now. Southeast Asia, durian central. We need you to try the fruit where it's best. We started making a list of things we want to try.
Yeah, because for a trip, it's not just about the places you want to visit. It's also you need to kind of look into what meals you want to have. And when you have a food list of things that you want to try and you do that research, it helps you look at different restaurants in the areas that you're going to be visiting. And of course, if you find restaurant recommendations online or, on YouTube, then that's great too. But of course, gauge what you want to try.
But yeah, when you say that, we don't want to say, oh, we must go to this restaurant on this day at this time and plan out every restaurant. We want to make sure just have a gist of what we want to try, have a nice long checklist. Because if we do plan everything to a T, it becomes really stressful.
Yeah.
Or if there is suddenly, oh, this restaurant is not open today, then it just throws the plan out the window. So I think some sort of flexibility and understanding of what we want to try. We might just find something random like, oh, hey, there's a durian stand right there. We're going to hit that up. Call it a day right there. Checklist. Boom.
And pray that you don't get food poisoning. But thankfully, Singapore was a very clean country, so I didn't have that fear. But in other countries that you may visit that don't really have like those clean food safety regulations, I would be very careful about food stands. But definitely keep an open mind, and things that you're exploring and you end up seeing, those are meant for you. So I always have that mindset when I'm traveling. So after we thought about the food we wanted to try in all the different countries and stops that we were making, it was time to look at where we're staying. We obviously need a place to sleep.
Do we? Aren't we just going to go all night?
All night doing what?
Partying, have fun. Singapore, nightlife is great there. I heard they have a night safari. We might be checking out elephants in the middle of the night. Who knows? Like, Singapore doesn't really sleep.
But I sleep.
Yes, I get it. We don't function like that anymore. We can't pull all-nighters on all-nighters.
Tony and I aren't really party people, so we definitely needed to sleep. In terms of accommodations, because it was our honeymoon, I didn't want to go budget friendly because even though a lot of times we go out and explore the city that we're in and we just mainly come back to sleep and shower and relax a little bit, I felt like for our honeymoon, we probably should enjoy our stay a little bit more in terms of like the amenities and the overall appearance of the stay. It helps with your mood to be relaxed and just kind of to live a little bit more in the moment.
But you do know that we're going to Singapore, we're going to Taiwan, or going to Japan. These three places are more notorious for having higher hotel prices and accommodation fees.
Yeah, which is confusing because their food prices are dirt cheap. But accommodation? Whoa, it's expensive. And watching Crazy Rich Asians, I was like, oh my goodness, we probably need to go and try that for like a couple days that we're there. And we did look into 5-star hotels. One of my goals that I really wanted was living at the Marina Bay Sands, which obviously is very iconic.
It's the hotel of Singapore. Did you want to go stay at Marina Bay Sands, or did you want to dunk in the swimming pool?
I wanted to go to the swimming pool, but because you have to live there in order to even access the swimming pool, that's what we did.
They are smart. They knew they had to do that. That's like their business plan. If you want to access the swimming pool, you must live there. And that accommodation was not cheap.
Oh, yeah, that was our most expensive accommodation, I would say. So for Singapore, we opted for hotel and we told them it was our honeymoon and they gave us some perks. But I feel like for Bali, I didn't want to do resort life and be hidden within a hotel and what they had to offer. I actually wanted to be in their culture and be immersed with that because Indonesian culture is a little bit different. We don't really get much of that in the United States. So for me, I was very curious. One of the reasons why I chose Bali and Indonesia was because I wanted to explore. I wanted to see what they had to offer. So being in a resort didn't really give me that vibe. So what I decided to do was look into villas, which I found on Airbnb. And there's a lot of villas, especially in different areas. And because we mapped out where we wanted to go in Bali, there was three main areas that we decided to explore more. First one was the Canggu area, which is kind of near the beach. It's on the west side of Bali. And then there was Ubud, which is kind of more central Bali and had more forests and then nature. And then we also had Uluwatu, which had a lot of beaches and it was on the southern end of Bali. So you kind of get a different vibe in each one. And we decided to go and rent villas in those three areas. And it was like a few days stay for each. And it just gave you a different experience.
Yep, we moved on to looking at accommodation for Taipei. I think Taipei was one of the more trickier ones, wasn't it? We had to look at where we want to go because there are so many ideas, locations, food we want to hit up in Taipei, different night markets. So we wanted to be strategic in where we lived. And we want to choose something very central, relatively close to everything we want to go to, but it's also convenient for transportation. So that took a bit of thinking and brainstorming.
Yeah, I did look into Airbnbs and also hotels. So where we ended up staying was near Taipei main station and also Ximending. It was kind of in the middle, easy to get to both places.
Yeah, that was very strategic. We could go north, we could go east in a very rapid fashion once we hopped onto the metro. And Xiwending is definitely a hot spot. It was very vibrant. I think using metro only in Taipei was sufficient because we chose a very strategic location.
Yeah. And then for Tokyo, because we also wanted to go to Hakone to see if we can see Mount Fuji.
In June, when fog and overhanging clouds was the most prominent thing.
Yeah, Tony told me it was only less than 50% chance that I would see it. So I had to prepare myself for that, even though we are going to Hakone. Also, another reason was to experience a hot spring because I've never experienced that before and I was very interested. So definitely plan for a day trip there. And then in Tokyo, we stayed at another hotel. And I would say it wasn't the most strategically located hotel, but we got it with points as well. And I felt like that was like a 5-star hotel too.
I mean, it was great. I think overall, in terms of accommodations, we hit more than we missed. In terms of our planning phases, what we saw from research and just looking at the location, looking at convenience, how strategic it is, and how comfortable did it meet all our criteria, I think we did a really good job on that front. The next thing we had to think about was how we're getting around because we already figured out where our bases were at every location, every island we were at. How are we getting around? Are we looking at metro? Are we looking at taxi, Uber, or the Uber equivalent, a personal chauffeur? Are we riding around a bike?
No, not in hot weather of Singapore or Bali. Definitely not. I would say transportation, especially first to plan out like how you're going to even get from the airport to your stay. That's number one. And I would plan that earlier. But for Singapore, they do have quite a lot of options in terms of getting around. They have Grab, which is their equivalent to Uber. They have like taxis, they have the metro. Unfortunately, we didn't try the metro, but Grab was really easy and they had like discounts for us, so that was great. For Bali, because we were staying in villas, they had drivers that they worked close partnership with and they recommended. So it was kind of like easier for us to not have to worry about transportation. The pricing was impeccable, I would say, for a full day of being driven around in an AC car. And that was the most comfortable too, to have our luggage stay in the car as well with someone watching it when we're at transfer points of our stays. So that was great. And then for Taiwan, as you mentioned, the metro system is great. You don't need a car. We did ride Uber or taxi once or twice because of the rain, but that was about it. And then for Tokyo, it was relatively easy with the metro station. It was great.
Yeah, we'll go into more deeper discussion about the whole transportation in Tokyo. I just had a great thought about how we rode a lot of different modes of transportation in one day. But the convenience factor of getting around in Tokyo on metro or public transportation, their infrastructure is amazing. What we have here is disappointing at the very least.
Yeah.
So after all that, we're like, all right, we're done planning everything. We're good. We're set in stone.
I wouldn't say set in stone, but we were well off at that point to pause the planning and just kind of go with the flow for most things. Of course, we still need to see like how we're gonna plan our days, but we could have done that a little bit later. And that we'll talk about how our days ended up being in future episodes. But one last thing I did want to mention was when I was doing research about flying to Indonesia and just being there, what I didn't realize and what was not like super well known was that the island of Flores does have a malaria risk. So I was quite shocked at that point because we had already booked our flights and I was like, what? We might catch malaria just from a mosquito bite. And that worried me. And usually before my flights to anywhere, especially in places I'm not familiar with and never been, I always go and make a doctor's appointment to discuss are there any vaccinations that I do need in order to protect myself on this trip.
There's always a CDC website if you don't want to visit a doctor, right?
There is. The doctor also provided me a website. It was great because it kind of coded in different colors how big the risk was. For the malaria one, Bali didn't have that risk. It was fine. But for the island of Flores, it did. And it was like, oh, I strongly recommend that you take anti-malaria medication. And so that was one of the things that I wouldn't have found out about if I didn't do the research and also didn't consult a doctor. So I would say no matter if you're going to a country where it seems like a lot of people go to, definitely do your homework, ask your doctor, and they'll definitely help you out. They'll guide you. And at the end of the day, the risk of catching malaria was far greater than me just taking anti-malaria medication.
Wait, so if you realized that there was malaria risk before you bought the plane tickets, would you have still go to Flores?
I would consider it, but I think at the end of the day, I probably would. Because what I wanted to see there was the Komodo dragons. And I felt like I was going to be in close proximity with one. And I just felt that was like the big adventure that I really hoped for. And I likely would have still went, especially because I could have taken the medication and whatnot. But if I had found out maybe a couple weeks before the trip, then I would have probably reconsidered if I couldn't get a doctor's appointment.
Oh, so you didn't want to adventure and see the malaria mosquitoes, eh?
No, that was scary. I definitely didn't want to come back with malaria.
But yeah, so that was us planning and brainstorming, coming together, deciding what we're going to do, where we're going to go, booking all our flights, and making a full checklist. But as we all know, when we travel, not everything is going to go smooth. It's a trial and error process. And the most important thing is go with the flow with this one. We're going to have fun. This is our honeymoon. Be happy.
Yeah, and the most important thing about the trip, especially your honeymoon, is to be with your partner. Be able to spend that time and experience the same things together. You'll run into issues, but you'll get through it.
So this is the first episode of Time to Check In. This is Tony.
This is Vivi.
And it's time to check out.
See ya!
Bye.